Hi, I'm Don Dwyer from Guardian Jet. Today we're going to talk about the different vehicles to purchase an airplane with, cash versus lease versus finance. I'll start with the pros and cons, then we'll go into an actual example of buying a $10 million airplane or leasing it. So in a lease, the pros are you preserve your capital outlay. You don't put anything up front, you just start making payments. You have fixed monthly payments, you know your budget for the term of the lease or your ownership period of the airplane. You have no residual value risk because the residual value risk is borne by the lessor. You do have some degree of flexibility because you can write into a lease EBO or ETO, early buyout, early termination options that can be favorable to you if the market does better than what the leasing company anticipated. You usually don't impact your P&L with in the year of the transaction like you would, paying $10 million for the airplane. The cons can be, this can be the most expensive way to own an airplane. Given that the parameters that we use to measure this behave the way we think they will, this will be the most expensive option. And that's because you're giving the residual value risk to the leasing company, and also they're getting the tax benefits. So the lessor gets the depreciation. If I move over to finance, finance can be the least expensive way to buy the airplane from a total aviation cost, at least the way we're measuring it today. You get significant tax advantages. You can accelerate the depreciation of the airplane. We use a 5-year maker schedule, modified accelerated cost recovery system for you accountants. And so you get a lot of tax benefits, and then there's no restrictions to of how you use the airplane. There was one other con on the lease I forgot. You can have restrictions of how much you use an airplane. You can only fly it so many hours a year, or you affect the return conditions on a lease. And in the purchase or the finance, you don't have that. What it does in a finance, it ties up a certain amount of capital. So say you use 20 or 25% in the $10 million example, you're going to put $2 or $2.5 million down, and you can't use that for other things in your business the way you could if you were leasing the airplane. A con is that you assume the residual value risk. And then also, because you're spending money in the year of the transition, it may negatively impact your P&L. Won't say it will, but it might. And then the cash purchase, much the same advantages of the finance, is that you get great tax benefits from owning your own airplane. It's the most flexible way to buy an airplane, because if I finance an airplane and I want to sell it, I may have to pay off a loan. If I own the airplane, I don't have to worry about that. So the most flexible and are what we consider nimble. It's an asset that's more nimble than the other vehicles. You also have no transaction costs. You're just paying. It's the easiest transaction, and you just go ahead and do that. Again, it may negatively impact your P&L because you're spending $10 million in the year of the transaction. If I go to, now I'm going to get right to the answer. So we did a 10-year cash flow. We assumed certain things like a 40% federal and corporate tax rate, 7% sales tax, 8% net present value. The blue lines are going to be the life cycle cost of the airplane. Life cycle cost is I buy the airplane, I pay for it, I pay for all the operating costs, I get the tax benefits if there are any, and then I sell the airplane, or in the case of the lease, terminate the lease at the end, and then I look at what my total costs are. Well, the cash purchase, very low life cycle cost. But when I apply the cost of money or the net present value it's very high. It's much higher than the life cycle cost, because in the beginning of that term, I put $10 million out. In the lease, I'm going to have high life cycle operating costs because I'm paying a lot of money over time to lease this airplane. But unlike in the purchase, because I'm paying it over time and it becomes a discount rate, you actually have a lower MPV than your life cycle cost. So it's a little less expensive to pay cash than the lease, but you can see the difference. And remember, there are some advantages to leasing. So I wouldn't call it neutral, but we're close. The finance, in this case, the way we measured it, financing clearly comes out ahead because we have the lower life cycle cost that we associate with the purchase. but we financed it. So we've only put a little money out front, and then we paid the rest of it off as we go. So we have an NPV that's closer to the actual life cycle cost. Our fourth example is with a balloon. It's a whole nother explanation, but it's financing with a balloon. But basically, the right side of this graph is beating the left side. In the way we measured it in this instance, financing wins. This is available to anyone that wants it. GuardianJet.com. Give us a call. We'd love to help you out.